Hi friends, we're going on a journey today and I need you to stay with me and give me your undivided attention for just 1 minute. We'll try and make it really fast. But I want to talk to you about why we should maybe care, I haven't seen it yet, about the new Russell Crowe. Trust me, I get it. Russell Crowe movie, The Exorcism. The movie is about a troubled actor who begins to exhibit destructive behavior while shooting a horror film. He is, from what I understand, playing a priest, and this is where it gets interesting. The director for this film is Joshua John Miller. Joshua John Miller's father is Jason Miller. Does this look familiar to you? It should, because he played Father Karras in the original Exorcist. He also was Patient X in The Exorcist 3, fun fact. And keep in mind, his real name is Jason Miller, and the character that Russell Crowe is playing is Anthony Miller. So, what I believe is going on here, The Exorcist, the original Exorcist, is riddled with rumors about a cursed set. And I think that this is the loose story about what had happened to the director's father while shooting The Exorcist, or some kind of version of that through his own eyes. These are all theorized, okay? I think they couldn't get the rights, they can't say it, but all clues lead back to that. The film was originally known as the Georgetown Project, which is where The Exorcist was set. A lot of people wanted to rule this film out, thinking it was another shot at the Pope's Exorcist, another shot at Russell Crowe being Russell Crowe unhinged. But this film was in production before the Pope's Exorcist, and it just took forever for anything to happen with it. I don't think it's gonna be groundbreaking, but I wonder what the content is. That's what I'm excited to see. It feels like an unofficial Exorcist film, and they can't say that. Although it's killing me that these posters exist in the same timeline, like a year apart. Like, this is crazy. Come on, guys. What, Hollywood, what the frick are you doing? These films were made and released by different companies, but there's only one way to find out what the heck this film is truly about. I'm gonna take you along, spoiler free, let you know whether it's worth your time and if it feels like it has any real connection to the original Exorcist film. Let's go watch The Exorcism and find out the truth. Come with me, let's go. How did it get this bad? And it's really not what you think. This film started and I had somehow all of the hope in the world for it. I was sitting there thinking, I'm gonna have to go out and talk to that camera and tell those people that this movie is fucking good. And then it all changed so swiftly. Let me tell you what just happened, spoiler free. The film is about a man, an actor, who had a past with alcoholism, and he has decided he's going to take on this role as a priest on this film. The film is this is where we get a little bit meta, so you're gonna have to once again stay with me. This is The Exorcist being remade. That's what this film is. The film is about The Exorcist being remade, and what I believe is the idea behind a lot of people when they found out that The Exorcist was being remade and they had something to do with the initial film, knowing that it's cursed and not wanting the new film to be made. That's not what happens in this film. That no one argues against it because of that, but there are little moments. There's definitely some dialogue that's been changed intentionally here, and I can tell this film was meant to be a pitch for the Exorcist remake. And it was meant to be a meta film about the movie being remade, and how it all goes wrong because of the cursed production. The original Exorcist had a fire on set caused by a pigeon, several deaths linked to the people around it while they were working on the film, and shortly after, some of the actors. Lots of injuries, including Linda Blair, who still has back issues from the film. Also, technical issues that caused injuries, and the director, who had some really odd ways and, yeah, inhumane ways of treating his actors to get what he wanted. But because they can't go fully there with this approach to it, it's kind of like this strange direct message, and then it flips, and it does not flip very well. The movie starts off about this actor, and then his daughter comes to come stay with him. They have a bad relationship because of his past, and everything that he has put his family through, to put it lightly. So the film does have layers. He is dealing with that. He's also dealing with some past trauma, which they get into in the film, that is triggered by working on this movie. His daughter has just been expelled from school, so she works as a PA on this film. So it's all about her perspective seeing this happen to her father, which I think is really interesting because, of course, we know the director of this film watched his father in the film. I don't think that it's a play-by-play of what happened to him and his father, especially not his father, my God, but it definitely hints very obviously on a lot of past things that happened on the set. The film's setup is beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. The idea that it's on a soundstage and you can see the walls cut away, it gives it almost like that Hereditary feel of when you're going through the houses that Toni Collette made. It's cold. They use the same idea of a cold room, which they did in the original Exorcist to get the air, the breath, all that kind of stuff. So it's in this spooky place. It feels very spooky, very cold, and not like a real house. It's such a cool idea. And it is just beautiful, soft, really cold lighting, tones. I loved all of that. I love the set design. But when things start going south and the film changes from this dramatic setup and pure drama, introducing you to the characters, getting into the meta idea, and then also showing different kind of messy layers to this human story that we're seeing. Him and his daughter's relationship, him and his struggle with alcohol, him and his trauma. There's a lot going on with him that it feels like almost too much, which I liked because it felt suffocating. And then seeing him under pressure at a work situation, I was really interested to see how the horror played into that. But when the horror sets in, it changes completely. And this film just goes completely off the rails, and not in a beautiful, chaotic way. It gets silly imagery, a lot of cliches. Russell Crowe was such a bad choice for this. He was such a bad choice. I thought it would have worked really well because it's kind of a parallel to him and his redemption, attempt at redemption from, doing horrific things in his past and trying to be an actor again, which he has successfully done. I'm not saying he hasn't, but I thought that was quite clever in the moment, but he can't pull it off. He does not work in horror, okay? I think he needs to take a step back from horror. It just did not work. I didn't believe him, and the story, it's broken up into chapters basically because it goes, day one of filming, and they have like the title card in between, and as it progresses into the horror aspects, it is such a quick progression from such a slow and careful setup. The way that they paint the characters and their backstories, they're so careful, and the dynamic is so tense. I really loved that. And then they lose it all once they start jumping through, and the progression just goes off a cliff, like completely off a cliff. The whole last act of this film, I could not tell you what it actually meant. It was so confusing what was meant to be happening. It's like two films mushed together. This amazing idea about, a cursed film, one of the greatest horror film of all time. The Exorcist and The Shining is basically the most iconic horror films of all time. Taking that and talking about these horrific things that people experience behind the scenes and shown from on set. I just love that idea, and it was so haunting. haunting and so creepy, and it didn't dumb it down for the explanation of who they are, why they're there. It got straight to the point. I really liked the setup, and I was thinking, oh my god, this is gonna be great. And then it just turned to absolute dumpster fire. They were doing all of the stuff that we hate in possession films, that we've seen 100 times, and I just don't know what happened. Did they lose half the script? They had such a good start, and Russell Crowe, he just couldn't pull off whatever they were trying to attempt. It was horrific. It really was. It felt almost like one of my favorite films, Blair Witch 2, which I know a lot of people don't like because it is trashy, which is part of the reason I love it, but it's like a 2000 film, and it's meta because it's based in the idea of the Blair Witch, but it's about people who are kind of trying to chase that. And it had such weird dynamics to the characters and relationships, and it was so messy with all these different ideas going on, with each of them having some kind of demon on their back. And it really reminded me of the attachment to another iconic Blair Witch, an iconic horror film, how to make a sequel or something in the franchise that draws all of the good stuff you like about the lore, but then changes it into its own atmosphere and its own vibe. But then they just lost it completely. And it's also not 2000 anymore. You can't make films like this. Film may have gone off when it was on tape, when we were watching, you know, from Blockbuster. This might have gone off on a Friday night when I was 15 at my slumber party. But it's 2024. You can't be making films like this anymore. You can't be just throwing it together. And that's really how especially like the second and third act for this film, there was literally a switch and it turned. I've never seen such a dramatic downfall in my life. The good things about this film, I liked the way it looked. I liked the setting. I thought that the scenes, even the exterior shots, the way it was set up, it was like this cold, dreary feeling. It felt uncomfortable. It didn't even start with like, you know, this hopeful, exciting moment. It felt off from the start, which I really liked the atmosphere and how they prepared you. David Hyde Pierce was in this film as a priest who is giving advice to the cast. Thought he did a really good job at approaching it. Chloe Bailey was in it, who is pretty good, and Ryan Simpkin plays the daughter, and I think that they did a great job with what they had to work with. I think this is an interesting film in regards to how it came about, and it is definitely an unofficial version of The Exorcist. I wonder if this was shopped around as an option for the remake, but it really is cut off at the knees, cut off at the shoulders maybe. It's this much. If you told me the last 30 minutes of this film, which should not exist, if you've seen the film, you'll understand why. If you told me the last 30 minutes of this film was The Pope's Exorcist, I'd be like, cool. The last part made no sense, and they had all of this great setup, and then they just rushed through the idea and the way they applied any horror elements. I will say I was quite jumpy in the cinema. There's a lot of jump scares in this film, but I feel like I've just had a jumpy week, to be honest. But I'll give you that. There was some unexpected scares in this movie. But all in all, if you're gonna watch it because you're interested in it and the setup, watch the first 30 minutes, then turn it off. I don't know if I'd recommend watching this one at home. Check it out if you're having a sleepover, I guess. I don't know. I'm not advising children to watch this. I am going to give this one a personal score of 4 out of 10. I'm so let down. It was such a cool start. And the set design, I freaking love that. For originality, I'm going to give it a 6 because I do love the meta spin on it. And for scare, I'm going to give it a 5. Jump scares got me. But anything scary they did with any exorcism kind of stuff, I've seen it all before. Even if they think they're doing something new, I've seen every single thing in this film before. There you go. There's all the information you need about The Exorcism. Have you seen this film? Let me know down below. Let me know your thoughts, feelings, concerns, questions. I would love to hear them. And don't forget, I did check out In a Violent Nature. I was very lucky to be able to check this one out. If you haven't checked out that video, make sure to check that out. And I'll talk to you guys very soon. Stay safe and stay spooky. I'm working on a big video for next week, so I'll see you then.